folks, and welcome to a video lecture on the cardiac conduction system. That is, the electrical system that stimulates the heart to beat rhythmically, circulating blood through the arteries and veins of the body. Be ready to take some notes. Cardiac muscle fibers connect in branching networks. The stimulation of one part of the network of cells allows an impulse throughout the entire heart. A mass of interconnected cells that function as a coordinated unit like this is called functional syncytium. The human heart has two structures that coordinate this functional syncytium. One is the cardiac muscle cells of the upper chambers, and it's called the atrial syncytium. And the other is the interconnected cardiac cells of the lower chambers called the ventricular syncytium. The two are separated by connective tissue in the heart, with the exception of a small area on the floor of the atrium. Throughout the heart are specialized cardiac muscle cells whose fibers do not contract, but instead create and distribute an electrical impulse through the myocardium. These specialized cells form the cardiac conduction system. The SA node is composed of these specialized cardiac cells that can generate their own stimulus without being stimulated by the nervous system. This impulse travels through elongated cells and initiates the contraction of the cardiac muscles of the atria. The SA node rhythmically sends out these impulses at a rate of anywhere between 70 and 80 times per minute in an adult heart. The SA node is also referred to as the pacemaker because it initiates the contraction of the entire heart. This impulse does not spread directly to the ventricular system due to the connective tissue skeleton that separates the two systems. You can see here that the nodal fibers of the SA node reach a second node called the atrioventricular node, or the AV node. The nodal fibers of the SA node here have a small diameter, which delays the impulse a bit before it reaches the AV node. This delay allows for the atria to finish contraction and empty their blood into the ventricles. Once stimulated, the AV node generates an impulse that travels through the AV bundle, sometimes referred to as the bundle of His, named after the Swiss cardiologist who discovered it in the late 1800s. From there, the fibers branch into Purkinje fibers in a manner that stimulates cardiac muscle cells to contract from the bottom of each ventricle first and then up the ventricles, essentially squeezing blood up and out of the two chambers. If we could see it, the arrangement of cardiac muscle fibers are such that they contract with a twisting motion that's more efficient at squeezing blood out of the atria and into the aorta or the pulmonary trunk. An electrocardiogram, or ECG, is simply a recording of the electrical impulses of the myocardium during a cardiac cycle. This signal is actually detectable on the surface of our skin because of the electrical conductivity of the body fluids. An ECG is measured by strategically placing electrodes on the body that are connected to an instrument that detects and illustrates the weak electrical signal. The up and down pattern creates a recording whose parts we refer to as waves. This P wave here is a recording of the depolarization of firing of the impulse from the SA node. This corresponds to the contraction of the atria. A brief moment of milliseconds occurs before the depolarization of the AV node, which comprises the QRS wave. This signal is much larger because the muscle mass of the ventricles is much larger. So this wave corresponds with the contraction of the ventricles. The T wave is the repolarization of the AV nodes. The T wave is the repolarization of the AV node as it reloads for another impulse. The repolarization of the SA node actually occurs during the QRS interval, so its signal is buried in the QRS signal and we can't see it. Doctors use the ECG to assess the ability of the heart to conduct impulses. For example, the time period between the P and the QRS interval, called the PQ interval, indicates the time for the cardiac impulse to travel from the SA node to the AV node. Several heart problems can be diagnosed this way. Now, if the heart only had to beat 70 to 80 beats per minute, the conduction system of the heart would be just fine. However, you know that your heart must respond to changes in the body to accommodate increased requirements from the rest of the body's systems. For example, when you start exercising, your heart needs to pump faster in order to circulate at a faster rate. The portion of the brain that senses the body's needs is the medulla oblongata. A region in the medulla oblongata, the cardiac center, can both increase and decrease the pace of the SA node. A subdivision known as the cardiac inhibitory center can send an impulse along the vagus nerve. That's a parasympathetic pathway that, at the SA node, releases acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that decreases the rate of the SA and AV impulses. This slows the heart rate, as a parasympathetic impulse should. From the cardioacceleratory center, sympathetic fibers pass down the spinal cord and leave via the sympathetic accelerator nerves to the sinoatrial node, the atrioventricular node, and the cardiac muscle. The axon terminals of these neurons secrete norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter that stimulates an increase in the rate and force of the heart contraction. All of this allows the heart to respond to the needs of every living cell of the body by delivering the needed materials they need in order to keep you running. That's enough for now. I hope you understand a bit more about the cardiac conduction system, or the electrical system of the heart. I also hope you found it interesting. If you have any questions, be sure to write them down and bring them to class. Until then, be well.